Welcome to Scarlet Vows, where stories of love, betrayal, and revenge are told through the raw emotions of those who live them. In today's video, you'll hear one of the most ruthless, yet deeply satisfying revenge stories, where a woman once seen as fragile was pushed to her breaking point, only to rise and turn the tables in a way no one saw coming. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a journey of turning pain into power. If you've ever been hurt, deceived, or thought you weren't strong enough to rise again, then this story is for you. Chapter 1: The Punch During the Pitch. I used to think the biggest blow in my life would come from the market, not from the very man I had loved and built an entire empire with. But my biggest mistake was believing that love and career could coexist, if only I tried hard enough. That morning, I walked into the conference room holding the most important presentation of my entire career, a strategic digital campaign for Morrison Group, a $1 million client I had spent 3 months preparing for just to retain. I dressed as usual, navy blue suit hair tied in a neat bun, eyes cold but confident. Both my team and I knew this was a do-or-die moment. Everything started off smoothly. I delivered each slide, each data point, every insight with the precision of a well-programmed machine. Until my phone buzzed. David, a simple message: Sarah will be taking over the Morrison account starting today. Clear out your office by noon. I read it twice. Then another message followed: thank you for everything you've contributed. No question mark, no explanation, not even a phone call, just the end. I remember standing there, my hand shaking so much I couldn't hold the pen. My heart pounded like it was trying to rip through my chest. 3 months of nonstop work, countless sleepless nights, meetings that dragged into midnight, and he fired me through a text message right in the middle of salvaging the company's biggest contract. I excused myself with a flat, unfamiliar line. Give me a few minutes to confer with my team. The voice didn't even sound like mine. I walked straight to the restroom, my phone still clenched in my hand. The woman in the mirror was still me, the same eyes, the same flawless makeup, but I knew. After those 2 messages, I was no longer the same woman. I called David. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail. I'm in the middle of a presentation with Morrison. What the hell is going on? Call me back immediately. But even as I said it, a part of me knew there was nothing to call back to. Pieces started falling into place, the name Sarah, which he had casually mentioned last week. The impromptu meetings I wasn't included in. The late-night laptop sessions when he used to curl up next to me instead. I thought it was stress. I blamed the job. No, I had given him too much benefit of the doubt. And now, the price was the very career I had bled to build. I returned to the conference room. Robert Morrison, CEO of the largest retail chain in the state, was still waiting. Janet, his marketing director, still had her pen poised, ready to jot things down. They had no idea I had just been removed from the very campaign I had created. I sat down, took a deep breath, and started again. About the digital timeline you asked earlier, I said not letting a single crack show. For the next hour, I presented like it was the last time I'd ever do it. Every slide, every idea, every number, I poured my heart into it. I saw Robert's eyes light up when I detailed the influencer partnership plan. I saw Janet nod in agreement as I outlined the social media trajectory. And when I finished, Robert stood up and shook my hand. Eyes locked on mine. We'll sign right away. This is exactly what we've been looking for. I smiled. Somehow, I still made them believe in a future with a company I had just been kicked out of. Robert added, Chloe, we chose your company for its reputation and for you. We hope to work with you for the long run. I nodded, reflexively thanked him, but inside was a storm. They left. I remained alone in the cold room, staring at the slides I had built, every idea, every word born of my sweat and blood. And now Sarah, someone I'd never even met, would step in and claim it all as hers. I gathered the documents, every draft, every note, every strategy I had conceived late into the night. Each step back to my office felt like a stab in the gut. I didn't cry. That phase was over. I was just cold and empty. When I opened the door to my office, Jenny, my assistant for the past 8 years, was already there, eyes red, standing next to a few empty boxes. "I'm so sorry, Miss Wilson. They told me to start packing." I didn't blame her. I placed a hand on her shoulder and softly said, "It's okay, Jenny. You're just doing what you've been forced to do." But inside me something had ignited, something that no longer felt like hurt, but pure, sharp clarity. David thinks he can erase me with a text message he's about to find out. I'm not the kind of woman who disappears quietly. I am the storm he just awakened. Chapter 2. The shattered mirror and the cruel text I used to think that when a marriage ends, at the very least, people should have the decency to look each other in the eye one last time and say, "We're done." David didn't. He chose to send a message, and then disappeared. When I returned to the office, the once familiar space where I had worked every single day suddenly felt foreign, like I had stepped into someone else's home. Me, the co-founder of Wilson Marketing Group, the one who had designed every inch of the conference room, now stood there watching my assistant silently hover beside cardboard boxes, her eyes red and glassy. "I don't understand what's happening," Jenny whispered almost inaudibly. I understood, and I didn't want her to have to understand. I simply nodded and said, "Pack everything, all of it." Every object I touched was a part of me, the leather notebook I used to handwrite the first ideas for the Henderson campaign, the photos of David and me celebrating our first major contract, the award certificates on the wall, each bearing only my name. All of it was about to disappear from this office, as if I had never been here at all. I froze in front of a framed photo from our 5-year anniversary celebration. David had his arms around me, both of us grinning, eyes full of dreams and trust. But looking at it now, I saw only one thing: a performance. A performance in which I had been the only audience member, unaware I was just a supporting role. My phone buzzed again. A message from David Sarah Mitchell will be arriving at 2 p.m. for the handover meeting. Prepare all client files, no check-in, no apology, not a single hint that I had been his wife for 23 years, that I had built this empire with him from nothing. Just an order. I opened my laptop. Sarah Mitchell. That name had never once appeared in any internal staffing list. I checked the employee directory. Nothing. No Sarah Mitchell had ever been approved for hiring. No HR record, no contract. No one had even heard of her. I opened the file cabinet, pulled out every client binder, Henderson, Riverside, even Morrison, all of them relationships I had built from the ground up. Every contract, every clause, every report edited by me word for word, and now they were to be transferred to a woman no one even knew. Jenny came back holding a ceramic mug. "Your mug?" "The one your daughter made in 3rd grade. I wasn't sure if I should pack it." I looked at it. The purple mug paint smudged with the messy handwriting, "World's Best Mom." I had kept it at the corner of my desk to remind myself there were things more important than work. I tightened my grip around the mug, then nodded. Pack it. Pack everything. I could feel it clearly now. It wasn't just my career being pushed out of this company, it was my entire identity. My role as a mother, a wife, a founder, erased layer by layer. David wasn't just betraying me. He was rewriting our entire past as if I had never existed. But in that moment, amidst the emotional chaos, something shifted inside me. It wasn't pain. It wasn't tears. It was a cold silence. A corner of me, the one that once made me a strategic leader, had awakened. I didn't know who Sarah Mitchell was, but she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life, believing I would go quietly. And David, he was about to learn the one rule every strategist knows by heart. Never eliminate the woman who taught you how to win while she's still holding her final card. Chapter 3, Signs Behind My Back. I left the office just before noon, carrying cardboard boxes packed with over 15 years of my career, wrapped carefully like relics. I drove home barely aware of the road beneath me. Everything looked strangely familiar. The cream-colored walls David and I painted together one summer 5 years ago. The sofa we picked out from a showroom after a long, exhausting debate. The candles still carried the scent of sandalwood, the kind I loved. Everything was still the same, but I was no longer the same person. In the house, it wasn't home anymore. It felt like a stage for a play I'd never been given the script to. I set the boxes down on the living room floor and sat my head in my hands. David wasn't home. Of course not. He had messaged me saying he was meeting with the new hire who'd replaced me, stolen my job, and now it seemed the man I once trusted with everything. It was then that I glanced out of the window. Maria, the woman who cleaned houses in our neighborhood, was washing a car in front of the neighbor's house. Maria had worked for our family for over 10 years. She had seen me pregnant, seen Lisa grow up, seen David and me make up argue again. Maria used to quietly mop the floors when we were too tired to speak, and left small bouquets on the table when I'd had a terrible day. If anyone had seen something strange, it would be Maria. I stepped out onto the porch. "Maria," I called. She turned, and her smile vanished the moment she saw my face. "Miss Chloe." "You're home early." I didn't answer right away. I looked her straight in the eyes. "I need to talk. Privately." Maria nodded. We walked to the backyard of the Hendersons' house. She wiped her hands with a rag, then sat down on a bench as if bracing herself for something heavy. "Maria, I know you're not the kind of person who likes to get involved in personal matters, and I respect that. But right now, I need you to be honest." She paused for a few seconds. "Is something wrong with David?" I nodded. "Have you ever seen anything unusual, anyone unfamiliar come to the house recently?" When I wasn't home, Maria lowered her gaze. Her wrinkled hands began twisting the rag, her nervous habit. "You know, I usually mind my own business. But sometimes, some things once seen can't be unseen." I waited. She looked at me for a long moment, weighing loyalty against truth. And finally, Maria exhaled deeply. 3 or 4 months ago, I overheard a few phone calls when I was cleaning upstairs. David was speaking in a low voice, that kind of tone men use when they don't want their wives to hear. I said nothing. My heart slowed to an almost painful pace. Each beat cracked deeper through my chest. And there was a girl, young blonde. She came by the house twice. You were in Portland visiting your sister. She knew where the glasses were in the kitchen. She knew how to use the espresso machine. I closed my eyes. She knew how to use the espresso machine. I used to think only David and I knew how to calibrate the water temperature to the exact degree he liked. At the time, I thought she must have been a guest. But she didn't feel like a stranger. She felt familiar. "When was the last time you saw her last week?" "The day before you came home from Portland." My fists clenched. "The day David picked me up at the airport with white lilies, my favorite. The night he took me to dinner at a fancy restaurant I'd never been invited to before. I had thought he's trying to make up for something. Now I knew it wasn't love. It was guilt." "Did you see anything else?" I asked. Though I already felt my heart tearing. Maria looked down, then reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small item wrapped in a napkin. I was going to throw it away, but something told me to keep it. I unfolded it. A silver earring. Expensive, delicate, youthful, not something I would ever wear. I let out a laugh, not from joy, but the kind of laugh that comes when someone has seen enough. Enough to know I had been blind. Enough to know I'd never be foolish again. "Maria, thank you. And please, this stays between you and me." Maria nodded, eyes glistening. "But Miss Chloe, be careful. When men start lying about the small things, it usually means they're hiding something much bigger." I held the earring in my palm like it was the final piece of a puzzle. Something bigger. Maybe But maybe I had already seen more than enough. And if this was a battlefield, I wouldn't just strike back. I would end it. Chapter 4, The Password of Memories and the Traitor's Inbox. Holding the earring in my hand. I didn't feel pain anymore. What I felt was more like I had just unlocked a door, and behind it was a maze I'd blindly wandered through for over a year, thinking I was living in a home. I returned to the house and walked straight into David's office. No knocking, no asking, no hesitation. He used to call it a private space for strategic thinking. Now I knew the only strategy was how to cut me out of everything I had poured my youth into building. David's laptop was still on in sleep mode. I moved the mouse slightly. A password prompt appeared. I looked at it and laughed. Our wedding date, 10/15/2015. David always said it was our sacred milestone. Turns out I gifted him a numeric sequence convenient enough for him to betray me behind my back and easy enough to remember. I typed the password. The screen lit up. I went straight to his email. One name immediately stood out, Sarah Mitchell. I didn't even need to search. The inbox was already flooded with emails from her. The subject line started off pretending to be professional marketing trends, strategy review, budget alignment. But after a few weeks, the tone shifted. Plaza Hotel Room 412. I'm waiting. You were perfect last night. About removing the obstacle, I think we're ready. I didn't need further confirmation. The obstacle was me. I don't know how long I sat there. Each email was a stab, but I didn't look away. I read every line like I was reconstructing a crime scene where the victim was me. There were hotel invoices charged to the company card, photos of dinner menus tagged with the client dinner, clearly a romantic evening for two. Even emails discussing the Chloe Wilson transition timeline marked priority. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had planned to eliminate me with coordination strategy and shameless confidence. I opened a folder labeled Internal Strategy, Confidential. Inside were documents referencing my client's loyal employees and a retention list of staff to remain under Sarah's management. That list didn't include Jenny, didn't include Marcus, didn't include anyone I had mentored. I suddenly remembered Maria's words. When a man lies about the small things, he's usually hiding something much bigger. And this was the bigger thing. I opened Sarah's latest email. Do you think we should go public at the gala? I want the clients to see us as a team. A team, I laughed. I, who had spent years building a professional image, who had never let personal affairs interfere with business, was being replaced by a woman who sent messages like this during work hours. I glanced at the printer. Then I hit print all. Every email, every attachment, the handover plan, the dinner receipts, even the itinerary for the Napa Valley getaway booked for the same week I had scheduled to visit my mother. Each page slid out of the printer like bullets loading into a gun. Every piece of evidence was around, and I never miss. Just as the last pages printed, my phone buzzed. Jennifer Walsh, the company's former accountant who had suddenly resigned a few months ago. Chloe, she said, voice hesitant. I heard what happened this morning. Are you okay? I don't even know what okay means anymore, Jen. But I need you. She paused, then said, then let's meet, not over the phone. I've kept some things that might be useful for this. We met at a small cafe on the west side of the city, the kind of place no one from the industry would visit. Jennifer pulled a brown folder from her bag and slid it across the table. I kept these documents, not because I didn't trust David, but because I didn't trust the way he was changing everything without telling you. Inside were receipts for personal expenses disguised as company charges. Regular payments to SLM Consulting, a shell company, conveniently matching Sarah's initials. A secret salary for an employee never registered in the system. He started shifting things around 8 months ago, Jennifer said. And every time I questioned it, he'd say, you were the one who didn't understand strategy. I stared at the folder, then looked at Jennifer. Thank you for not deleting what you knew. She smiled. Chloe, I used to think he was smart. But now I know he was only smart until he crossed you. I drove home. Beside me sat a bag full of evidence. I knew I couldn't turn back time, but I could rewrite the ending. And this time, I'd be the one holding the pen. Chapter 5: The Silent Ally. I once heard someone say, "In war, your true ally isn't the one who stands next to you in victory. It's the one who quietly holds onto evidence when the world turns its back on you." Jennifer Walsh was exactly that kind of person. She left the company just a few months ago with a vague reason, a difference in management philosophy. I remember feeling like something wasn't right, but I was too busy to dig deeper. Now I know Jennifer saw what I didn't, and instead of walking away, she quietly gathered everything, waiting for the day the truth would speak for itself. I laid out all the files she gave me across the dining table at home. The stack in front of me wasn't just proof of an affair. It was an indictment evidence of corruption, embezzlement, and a calculated scheme of deceit. Every luxury hotel bill filed under strategic partner meetings. Every romantic dinner marked as high-level client entertainment. Even the rent for Sarah's upscale apartment was labeled temporary office for strategic consulting. And SLM Consulting. No such company existed. Its registered address was a rented mailbox. All of it had been approved through the company's account. I froze. Our money. Funds that should have gone toward upgrading our software, improving employee benefits, and boosting team morale had been used to support a blonde woman with no qualifications, no experience, and not a trace of integrity. I called Jennifer back. This is enough to blow everything up, isn't it? Chloe, she said, I've done accounting for 12 different companies, but I've never seen someone fake an entire shell company just to bankroll a mistress like David did. And more than that, I've never seen a woman handle it with the kind of composure that you are right now. I didn't laugh. I didn't thank her. I just said the truth. I've cried all the tears I had, Jen. Now it's time to calculate. 3 days later, I stood in front of a sleek, high-rise building with a name that made my chest tighten, Riverside Towers. I used to think the condos here were reserved for people so wealthy, they never had to explain themselves. Turns out, I had been paying for someone to live here. I just didn't know it. I stepped into the lobby. The doorman was a cheerful older man whose face lit up when he saw me. Mrs. Wilson. What an honor. Ms. Mitchell had nothing but wonderful things to say about you yesterday. Said you and your husband were such lovely people. I almost laughed. My husband and I, lovely people. I nodded, hiding the sting in my chest. Is she home? Not sure. Said she was headed to the market, but you can wait if you'd like. 12B. He pointed to the elevator. Oh, and she mentioned her rents always paid right on time through a Wilson Marketing Company account, I believe. Management just adores her for that. I sat down in one of the leather chairs, pretending to scroll through my phone while my mind spun in circles. Sarah Mitchell was living here rent-free on the dime of the company I built from nothing. David hadn't just betrayed me. He had used my name to sponsor his mistress. I returned home. That night I called Jennifer again, and we reviewed every transaction, every line item. Preliminary total, nearly $80,000. And that was just from the past 8 months. Jennifer's voice lowered. If we dig deeper, I wouldn't be surprised if it crossed 6 figures. And if you want Chloe, I can help you compile a full report for the board, or for a special meeting. I stared at the stack of files, now towering like a mountain. And I knew I couldn't just dump everything in front of people recklessly. I needed a stage. A moment where everyone would witness it, clients, partners, employees, the entire industry. And I knew exactly where that would be. The company's annual appreciation gala, the same event where David planned to debut Sarah, where he envisioned standing beside her, under blinding lights basking in applause. I would keep my invitation. I would stand on that stage. But not to say goodbye. I would expose the entire performance they've been staging right down to its final act. Chapter 6. The Mask of Sarah Mitchell. There's a type of woman who never walks through the front door, yet somehow takes over the whole house. Sarah Mitchell was that type. She didn't need to be introduced to me. I'd already seen enough through the luxury hotel invoices, the sultry emails, the sickly sweet texts sent at midnight while I was sleeping alone on the other side of the king-size bed. But I still needed to know who she really was. David wasn't the kind of man to hand over a piece of the company to just anyone unless he was obsessed. So I started digging. Not by gut feeling, by skill. I've worked in media long enough to know if you want to uncover someone's lies, start with what they brag about most, their LinkedIn profile. Sarah Mitchell claimed to be former marketing director at Henderson & Associates, head of strategy at Creative Solutions Group. Type 2, graduate, State University. It sounded polished. But just a few phone calls and some old contacts later, the paint started peeling from her mask. First stop, HR at Henderson & Associates. The polite HR rep said, "Yes, Sarah Mitchell worked here." But just as an administrative assistant. 6 months. She was let go for submitting fake reimbursement claims on unauthorized expenses. I thanked her and drew a thick red line through marketing director. Next, Creative Solutions Group. The company had shut down 3 years ago, but I tracked down its founder now, a visiting professor. "I remember Sarah," he said. "She was a summer intern. Stayed for exactly 8 weeks. I laughed. 8 weeks of internship yet. On her profile, she claimed to have led a team of 12 and managed 5 brand campaigns. And her college degree, Sarah attended 1 semester. Dropped out. No diploma. No transcript. Nothing except a very convincing imagination. A woman built on fiction from the ground up, and David trusted her enough to hand over the entire company. No. This wasn't just about sex. Sarah wasn't just a pretty face. She was an opportunist, a planted operative, and David, whether foolish or blind, helped her carry out the plan. The real question was she doing this for David, or was someone else behind her? I called Tom Rivera, a private investigator I had hired years ago to vet potential business partners. I sent him one line: "I need everything on Sarah Mitchell. ASAP. Tom called back in less than 24 hours. His voice was low, measured. "Chloe, you're not going to like what I found. I haven't liked anything for a week. Just tell me." Sarah Mitchell met with representatives from Hartley & Associates at least 3 times this past month. I went numb. Hartley & Associates was our biggest competitor, the same firm that had tried to poach our clients for years but never succeeded. Now they didn't need to compete anymore. They had someone on the inside. Sarah wasn't just the other woman. She was a spy. She was planted to take the clients, the strategies, the company from the inside out. And David gave her full access to internal accounts, client databases, pricing models, campaign history. I sat on the living room floor surrounded by papers, laptop open, phone already recording, and my mind racing with the sharpness of 10 years of strategic planning condensed into a single moment. If this was a takeover game, then I would play it until the end. But I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't send a 3-page email. I wouldn't barge into the office demanding my chair back. I would stand before the entire industry and tell the story with data, with evidence, and with a voice that didn't shake. The gala David thought would be Sarah's coronation would become the night the two of them severed the power cords under the stage. And I would hold the mic. I began compiling everything: photos of Sarah's luxury apartment, paid for with company funds, dinner receipts logged as internal networking, misfiled contracts signed without proper procedure, emails between Sarah and our competitor. I arranged them not in chronological order, but in destruction order. Right then, I received a call from Margaret Chin, CEO of Chin Industries, our oldest and biggest client. "Chloe, I'm very concerned. I called your office, and someone named Sarah answered. She sent me a proposal I couldn't make sense of. The timeline was wrong. The budget was 30% over, and worst of all, the content was lifeless." I took a deep breath. "Margaret, I'm doing everything I can to fix this. I promise you the truth will come out. And if you still believe in me, wait for the gala." Her voice softened Chloe. "I've never doubted you, but my heart breaks for you." I looked over at the wedding photo frame I had turned face down the night David fired me. I picked it up, but this time I didn't cry. I turned it upright, stared into the eyes I once loved, now just memories, and I smiled. Because finally, I knew exactly who I was fighting. Chapter 7, The End of a Marriage and the Beginning of Me. I remember the day the judge delivered the verdict like a silent yet blinding period at the end of a sentence that had been gasping for breath for far too long. I was granted full custody. Completely. The court didn't just declare me the primary guardian, it also barred my ex-husband. No, the man sitting across from me didn't even deserve to be called that from contacting our son until he completed a full course of mandated psychological therapy. He sat there in a crumpled suit, his once perfect hair now unkempt, his eyes vacant. No longer the arrogant man who could charm anyone into believing he was a great father or a successful entrepreneur. I stood tall, holding my son's hand, and looked him in the eyes one final time. No anger, no pity, just peace. The kind of peace that floods a long abandoned room in a broken down house. The dust still settles, but the light has finally come in. I left the courthouse with my son, and a letter from my lawyer informing me that the house, the one that had once stood as a monument to deception, was now officially in my name. He gave it all up quietly because he didn't want the evidence I held to ever see the light of day. A silent agreement, if you will. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. In the days that followed, I started putting my life back together. No more secret messages from him. No more sleepless nights, wondering what I did wrong. No more waking up, feeling like a bystander in my own happiness. I began to write, not to accuse, but to remember and to heal. I wrote everything down, every detail, every shock, every little moment where I almost lost myself, and how from the wreckage I found my way back. One day, as I sat writing on the balcony, my son came over and asked, "What are you writing?" Mom, I smiled, light as the breeze. "I'm writing about me, about how I learned not to be afraid anymore." He nodded as if he understood, then wrapped his small arms around me with all the strength in the world. I'm no longer the woman I used to be. I'm a mother, a storyteller, a woman who looked betrayal in the face and turned it into the fuel to rise stronger than ever. And if you, the one hearing this story, have ever fallen into the depths of pain, please believe me, you will rise. Not because someone will come save you, but because you've had the strength within you all along. I am living proof of that. And this is not the end. It's the beginning. A beginning full of freedom, strength, and light after the storm named a false marriage. Chapter 8. I didn't just get revenge, I took my life back. I used to think all I needed was to make him hurt once to let him feel the sting of betrayal, that it would be enough. But then, I realized I didn't need him to suffer. I just needed to be free. Winning custody wasn't just a court victory. It was a punch in the face of the man who once called me a weak, unfit, and failed mother. When the judge ruled that my son would stay with me, he didn't look at me. He looked at our child, and for the first time I saw confusion in his eyes, uncertainty, and emptiness. A few weeks later, he moved out of the house. I didn't care where he went, but I did find out he'd been fired from the company. The head of HR called me apologizing for ever doubting my story. Turns out, after the hotel scandal, he had continued sending messages and photos to at least 3 other female employees. One of them filed an official complaint. And once they checked the office security footage, that was it. I wasn't behind it. But I didn't have to be. Liars create their own downfall. As for me, I moved forward. I started rebuilding slowly. Small things at first, driving my son to school, cooking a proper dinner, reactivating my social media accounts, the ones he once pressured me to delete. And little by little, I realized I was breathing easier, sleeping deeper, smiling, for real. One day while reorganizing the books in my office, I came across our old wedding photo. I was about to toss it in the trash, but something made me pause. I looked at the woman in that picture, the one who once believed that love meant sacrificing everything without expecting anything in return. And I wanted to hug her and say, "You survived, and you're stronger than he ever imagined." I didn't throw the photo away. I put it in a sealed box, locked it, and labeled it Old Ending, New Beginning. I know I'm still on the journey. There are nights when the nightmares come, moments when the memory of betrayal still aches deep in my chest. But then I think of my son, and I see the way his eyes light up when I pick him up from school. To him, I'm a hero, and I'm beginning to believe it too, that I'm the hero of my own life. I no longer need to get revenge, because I already won. Not on paper, but in my heart, in my soul, and in every free, unburdened step I take each day. I was once the victim. Now I'm the storyteller. And this is the final chapter of an old life, but only the first chapter of a brand new journey. And that's how I took everything back: my child, my home, my dignity, and myself. No one can save you but you. And when you rise, don't just get back up. Walk right past them with your head held high. Thank you for watching this story on Scarlet Vows, where every pain has a voice and every woman deserves to be heard. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share so those who need it can also find strength in their own broken pieces. I am the voice of hearts that have been hurt, and I'll be back with stories even more powerful than this one.